Good evening, everyone, to the March 21st, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting of the Doylestown Township Board of Supervisors. We have a presentation to kick off our agenda tonight from Joe Wolfram from Vanguard. Mr. Wolfram?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. Again, I'm Joe Wolfram, Senior Investment Consultant for Vanguard. Before I jump in, I was just wondering if there's any questions you would specifically like me to address regarding the police and non-officers' portfolio. Otherwise, I'm just going to jump right into the presentation.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Nope. Please do.
Okay, very good. So beginning on slide 2, and I'll pause for a moment as I know they're going to pull that up. Slide 2 speaks directly to the markets in 2022 and historically going back to 1926. So 2022, we began our relationship in the beginning of 2022, was a very difficult year. So looking north and south, you can see bond returns, and looking right to left, you can see stock returns. Bond returns are shown looking at aggregate bonds, or the aggregate bond index, similar to the Barclays Bloomberg aggregate bond index, which would be very common within many portfolios. And equities are represented by the S&P 500. So on the bottom left-hand side, you can see that the 2022 dot highlighted shows that equities returned negative 19.5%, and bonds returned negative 13.07%. This was significant for many reasons. So first of all, it wasn't so much that equities had a negative return, in as much as it was that there was really no flight to safety last year. So in general, when equity returns are negative, you would have some reprise from positive fixed income returns, and that was not the case last year. So you could see some of the other years we highlighted. 1931 was before the Great Depression, 2008, global financial crisis, 1937, right before the start of World War II, 1974, global oil embargo, and lo and behold, 2022. So from that respect, it really was an outlier year. Looking over to the right-hand side slightly, you can see 2021, although it was a slightly negative year for bonds, slightly very strong positive year for stocks. So we have seen some volatility in the past year, and particularly with both asset classes. So far, just to give an update for 2023, equities on a year-to-date basis through last Friday are up about 2%, and likewise, fixed income is up about 2% on a year-to-date basis. The next slide, slide 3, shows performance on a quarterly basis and for the full year for both pension plans. So the allocation for both pension plans is exactly the same, so the returns in general are going to be identical, with the exception that there may be some noise periodically because of differences in cash flows. So cash flows would be contributions into the plan, pension payments coming out of the plan. We do use those cash flows to rebalance on a monthly basis, so we receive cash flows every month. We rebalance to the target portfolios. So as you can see, just looking down the one-year column, again, negative 16.19%, which is in line with a typical 65-35 portfolio such as you have. That slightly underperformed the benchmark of 16.08%. Recall that benchmarks do not include fees, so there's no rebalancing costs, there's no expense ratios, which is the cost to manage the funds themselves, there's no advisory fees, et cetera. So in many periods, you'll see the portfolio return very close to the benchmark, but slightly underperform because of expenses. On a year-to-date basis, you can see every single asset class was negative. So the best performing asset class for the year was domestic fixed income at negative 12.18%. That was followed by international fixed income, slightly worse at negative 12.92. The reason for that negative performance was the movement in interest rates. So that was not only a U.S. phenomena, globally interest rates across the board, across all maturities, so at the short end of the curve and the long end of the curve went up. And as interest rates go up, fixed income returns are negative. Likewise, when you look at equities, U.S. slightly outperformed international equities, negative 17.91 versus negative 18.66. And part of that was the strength of the dollar. And likewise, there were some other factors, security selection, et cetera. Well, when we consider this portfolio, or these portfolios, They're very well diversified. So from an equity standpoint, half of the portfolio is index-based. That means it's going to very closely track the returns of the large indexes, such as the S&P 500 for the U.S. side, and global indexes as well on the international side. The other half of the portfolio is actively managed. So again, active management is still going to very closely track indexes in general, but you would expect us to have a little bit more risk and a little bit more return, some more volatility. But again, that's around the edges of the portfolio. For 2022, the active portion of the portfolio slightly outperformed the index portion. So that's not shown here, but we do have that breakout. Outperformed by about 1%. And so far in 2022, the index portion is slightly outperforming the active portion by about 30 basis points. On a year-to-date basis, it's about 1.67% versus 1.37%. The portfolio itself, again, on a year-to-date basis, is up. So far in 2023, through last Friday, the portfolio is up about 2.5%. Likewise, every single asset class is positive, and on a year-to-date basis, international equities or international fixed income is the best performer at about 3.8%. Looking at a quarterly basis, you could see every single quarter except for the fourth quarter was negative. So the high in the equity market and the high in the fixed income market in 2022 happened to be January 3rd. So from the entire year, from January 3rd, which was a Monday, forward, asset classes were never as high as they were at the beginning of the year. So just recall the Fed raised interest rates 7 times over that period. Equities peaked at the beginning of the year and continued downward. So I will say that the markets hit a relative low October 10th. And since that point in time are positive, and you can see that's reflected in the Q4 2022 number. So every single asset class, with the exception of international fixed income, basically flat. But we've continued that upward movement from the end of last year. Right now, the portfolio, so at the end of last year, portfolio's combined assets were approximately $24.1 million. And at the close of business on Friday, they were about $24.9 million. So up on a net of cash flow basis by about $800,000. On the bottom left-hand side of slide 3, we show the portfolio allocation itself. Again, it's 40% U.S. equities, 25% international equities, 25% domestic fixed income, and 10% international fixed income. And on the right-hand side, we show the fees. The investment fees or expenses, that comes out of fund returns. So when we talk about the returns themselves, they're net of fund expenses. Those costs aren't paid directly. They're indirect costs that come out of the funds, and that's prorated via the allocation. So for example, if the allocation is 20% in the total bond or stock market fund, the expense ratios of 3 basis points come directly out of that, so it's not a direct fee. The other fees that are charged are the advisory fees. That's a direct cost, and that is about 25 basis points on an annualized basis. Again, that's tiered to the asset amount, so the more assets you have, the lower that actually is. Any questions so far on slide 3? No? I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about the next few slides. Slide 4 just shows notable performance and notable events in 2022. And as you can see, a variety. I'm not going to go through each of them, but you can see at the top, it shows the blue line represents U.S. stocks, orange is non-U.S. stocks, U.S. bonds is reddish, and then non-U.S. bonds is dark blue. And you can see everything kind of goes straight down with a little bit of movement, kind of bottoming at the beginning of October and then kind of rising up again. Events, we list 30 events across the bottom, and notably 7 of those are Fed funds rate increases. Speaking of which, I'm just going to touch on that for one moment. So far the Fed did increase rates in the beginning of February. They increased them 25 basis points. You may be aware that there is a Fed meeting today and tomorrow with the expectation that the Fed may continue to increase rates. There's been a lot of volatility in the market, particularly in the last week. I can assure you I was away last week on vacation, and that's when it always happens. So I come back, and lo and behold, there's some volatility within regional banks. Within those regional banks, I want to assure you 2 things. First of all, liquidity issues. All of your assets are in mutual funds, and they have daily liquidity. So what generally happened with most of these banks is the Planet Fitness effect. So Planet Fitness, regional gym, has tons of members. Generally, most of the time, you can go in, you can get on the treadmill, not a problem. If you think about January 3rd, right after New Year's, Planet Fitness effect. Everybody who's a member decides to come in. That's what happened with some of the regional banks. Everybody who had assets wanted to get their assets out. So when there's a rush on the bank, just like at Planet Fitness, when everybody wants to use the same equipment, it's not available. And that's basically what happened, particularly with SVB, or Silicon Valley Bank. That was a rush to a certain extent. Not necessarily an outlier, so we've seen that with some of the other regional banks, First Republic as well. That's in the news recently. But of larger concern is Credit Suisse, which was somewhat of a larger bank, international bank, large player. But taking a step back, that what impact we'll have going forward. Your funds have daily liquidity. You should have no problems with any cash flows, getting those out, et cetera. And likewise, with tomorrow's Fed interest rate, our expectation originally was 25 to 50 basis point move up for a longer term. Now we're looking at about 25%, and the market is actually pricing in between the 25% and 30% chance of zero interest rate. So remains to be seen over the longer course of time. So within the rest of the year, when we consider the Fed's primary target is still to fight inflation. So whether they move tomorrow or not, we believe over the long term for the rest of this year, they will continue to trickle up a little bit on that Fed's fund rate. Okay. The next slide, slide 5, just ties back some other information regarding 2022, inflation, unemployment, et cetera. I'm going to leave those for you. They're just touch points. Same thing on slide 6, shows monetary policy. Finally, slide 7 shows volatility in the S&P 500. Again, just really for your information. More importantly, I just want to touch base on slides 8 and 9. So on slide 8, we talk about bear markets. So we were certainly have been in a bear market. Slide 8 just shows the length and magnitude of previous bear markets and what some of the expectations are about coming and turning around. And you can see, as I've mentioned earlier, since mid-October, October 12th to be exact, the equity markets have turned around and are positive. So although equity markets were down 27% from January 3rd, 2022 until about October 12th, they're up about 10% at that point in time. So we still are about 17% off of the highs on the S&P 500. But again, things have kind of turned around. And on slide 9, you see that stocks can recover from bear markets. And it shows historical bear markets, the length of time it took to recover from those. With that said, I'm just going to move to slide 10. Slide 10 talks about our economic forecast. And you can see our projection. So these are 10-year projections using Vanguard's capital market assumptions model. You can see that U.S. equities are projected to return between 4.5 or 4.7 and 6.7 going forward. Further down on the left-hand side, you can see that we expect global equities, ex-U.S., that's the international stock fund itself, to actually outperform. It's about 7.5 to 9.5%. On the right-hand side, you can see aggregate bonds are expected to return 4 to 5% effectively. So what that translates into on a forward-looking expectation basis, over a 10-year forecast, we would expect the portfolio to return somewhere between 4.5 and 7.8%, with a median expectation, or half of the projections above and half below, of 6.16%. And over a longer period of time, 30 years, we would expect higher returns, so 6% to 7.5%, with a median of about 6.8%. And again, that's relative to your discount rate, your current discount rate, which I believe is 6%. So that's all I have for the formal portion of the presentation. There's an appendix in the back. If there's any questions, I'll be around to take them.
Thank you. Nicely done. Any questions from the board?
Okay. And finally, no recommendations to changes in the portfolio at this time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, any public comment regarding agenda items only? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on. The next meeting of this board is Tuesday, April 18th. That'll be at 7 p.m. We're going to, the Doylestown Township Board of Supervisors and the Finance Committee is going to hold a budget work session on Tuesday, April 18th. That will be the first of this year. and that meeting will take place at 5 p.m. We're going to be closed on Friday, April 7th for Good Friday. Keep up to date with Township News. This is a new device, form of communication. Thank you, Stacy Grendel, for setting it up. E-News is sent out every Friday at 4 p.m., so you can sign up at doylestownpa.org. It really is a fun piece of material to get in your box, and will tell you what's happening even that weekend coming. It's really good, especially with the Performing Arts Series and all the park and recreation events that are planned for the spring and summer. Okay, drug take-back is April 22nd in Doylestown Hospital and Weiss's Market, and that's going to take place between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Upcoming events, the yard sale in Central Park is on April 24th. Touch a Truck is in Central Park on May 13th. The annual golf outing is at Doylestown Country Club on August 21st. And the 2020 Thompson Performing Arts Series at the CNN Bank Amphitheater starts in June and will run through August. And you can find all details for all of these events on doylestownrec.org. And then the 2023 National Night Out is August 1st, 2023 at 4 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. in Central Park. And that is a celebration of our police and local fire and emergency services. And it's organized by Doylestown Township, and it's happening everywhere throughout the region. Correct, Sergeant Jones? Yes. So it was well attended last year, and will prove to be just as fun and probably greater and bigger this year. That's August 1st from 4 to 8 in Central Park. And if you got potholes, for state roads, call 1-800-FIX-ROADS. For township roads, call 348-9915. And you can find out whether you're a state road or a local road by going to doylestownpa.org. There is a list of state and local roads, so you can know who to call if you got a problem. Okay, leaf and yard recycling is the third Saturday of each month from 9 to 11, and the first and fourth Tuesday of the month from 9 to 2. The drop-off for both times and dates is the New Britain entrance to Central Park. Okay? And then finally, on to the minutes approval for the regular meeting of February 21st, 2023. Have the members had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Any changes, corrections?
Yeah, I'd like to just correct one thing. When I talked to, it was a paid feasibility. We looked at the paid feasibility study and saw there were 3 to 5 tennis courts. I also think I stated that it's important we don't disenfranchise our community partners, specifically the Bucks County Tennis Association, and that it was a miss by our part because they are not listed as an athletic partner in our paid feasibility study. So I just wanted to mention that and make sure that in the future, I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but that we make sure we include them in our conversations.
Okay. Anything else?
No changes.
All in favor of the approval of the minutes with that comment made by Mrs. Santa Cecilia?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for straightening me out there. Okay, so the minutes have been approved. The next item on the agenda is reports from the solicitor.
I will have more to
correspondence.
say later in the agenda, but not at this point.
Any correspondences?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Engineer, Township Engineer?
Nothing to report at this time.
Sergeant Jones?
Nothing to report, thank you.
All right, on to Director of Operations.
I have a number of items. First is our 23-24 Bucks County Consortium Materials Bid Award Recommendation. New Britain Township, on behalf of the Bucks County Consortium of Local Governments, which we are members of, we participate in basically a collaborative bid to get better pricing. So New Britain took our quantities along with everybody else's, and they put out the bid for us. They compiled the bid, and they provide us the results. We are required to contract individually with each material supplier. We do this every year. It's for basically kind of like April of this year to the following year, so it overlaps calendar years. My memo indicates an idea of what amount of material we think we're going to buy, and I always ask the board to approve the pricing from the following companies each year so that we can just buy material as our Public Works Department sees fit. So I'm going to ask you to accept the pricing from the following companies. Eureka Stone Quarry of Chalfont, PA, Plumstead Materials of Doylestown, PA, Heidelberg Materials of Northeast LLC of Newtown, PA, Highway LLC of Charver, PA, and then additionally Continental Concrete Products Incorporated in Pottstown, PA, and M&W Precast and Construction Supply LLC in Ottsville, PA.
Is there a motion to approve the bid submissions as outlined by Mr. Tomko?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. My second item you received yesterday because we opened the bids Monday morning. This is for our 2023 lawn maintenance contract because we have so much park space, open space, basins we contract out. We received 2 bids. The low bidder is the same company that we had last year, though they've changed their name. They used to be M&M Landscape out of Lansdale. They are now Mid-Atlantic Property Maintenance, so it's a good thing. So they're very familiar with the contract in our areas that we mow. This is a 3-year contract, so it's a base year, which is 2023, with the option for 2 one-year extensions, so we don't have to bid this every year. So I'm asking the board to approve Mid-Atlantic Property Maintenance LLC of Lansdale, PA, for basically our weekly mowing amount of $4,105, which also equates to, we do 28 mows, which equates to $114,940 for the season. I'm asking the board to approve their bids, and we'll execute the contracts.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
My last item is we received 2 Green Light Go grants. If your board recalls back last year, we actually applied for them in 2021. We were notified in 22, and the board did accept those grants from PennDOT. These grants are for 2 separate projects. They are 80-20 match, so the township is responsible for 20%. PennDOT matches the 80. The first project is what we're calling the Green Light Go, a project for various traffic signal improvements throughout the township. We're doing improvements on Easton Road, a couple of locations. That's the one project. And the other one is for Route 313 Swamp Road, signal system retiming. We have partnered with our adjacent municipalities that we will share the 20% divided upon across the signal ownership. As a requirement, we have to secure engineering proposals. Pannoni has provided them. I'm asking the board to approve the item for the various signal improvements, signal and safety improvements totaling $30,000. That is the engineering fee. And the Swamp Road engineering fee is $89,241. I'm asking the board to approve both of those scopes of work for Pannoni Associates.
Let's take them individually. The first is the approval for $30,000 engineering fees for the Route 611 improvements.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the second is for the Route 313 et al. Improvements at $89,041 for engineering.
I'll make the motion.
I think it's $89,241.
41.
I'm just reading off the
89,
Hold on.
89041.
yeah.
It's 89,241.
I have 041 too.
It's in the materials, it's 041. That's all right.
Well, which one is it?
What is it, Dave? 200?
Okay, yeah, it is 80, I'm sorry, right, 89041.
Okay, there's just
so
a
it's wrong on the
typo.
agenda.
Okay, so I'll make the motion for
Thank you.
what Barb said.
89,040.
Yeah.
All right, then I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anything else, Dave?
That's it for now, thank you.
Okay, Township Manager.
Yes, the first item is a meeting room waiver request from the Rotary International. They'd like to use this meeting room April 1st from 9 to 12, and they're looking for a waiver of the fee. They're a nonprofit organization.
It's what is the number of the fee, 150 or 300? I see 2 numbers here.
Based on their time in the room, it would be 300.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the waiver?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Was all.
Yes.
Stephanie, can you just explain, and I know we talked about it before, when we have nonprofits that ask for that waiver, I'm appreciative what the Rotary does in the community, but how does that work again? Because I know we've had other organizations
We have a policy, and it's detailed in the policy, and the waiver can be up to $1,000.
I'm sorry, can you say it
We
again?
have a policy
Dollars.
um,
For non, yes.
for nonprofit waivers.
Right.
And we're authorized to waive up to $1,000.
1,000, thank you. I just couldn't remember, thank you.
I believe that's
Appreciate
1,000 over the course of the year.
Right,
Over the year, okay. That's what I was trying to remember, thank you.
yes. Okay, next item on the agenda, it's Stephanie, municipal consortium, joining the municipal consortium.
Right. This was something that we participated in previously when Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority was looking to sell their system privately, and we joined with our other municipalities. Several of the municipalities approached the Bucks County Association and township officials and talked about forming a more permanent organization. This is one that would run through the spring of 2026. It would have everyone who participates contribute $250, and they would continue to work on legislation, specifically Act 12, that is addressing sale of public water and sewer entities to private for-profit organizations. Many of our municipalities, we saw a presentation on this for those of us who were at the Bucks County Association Township Officials Convention in February, and at this time, board's consideration on joining the consortium.
Note, it's $250 a year, but if they hire a lawyer, they hire an engineer, they hire some investigator, I mean, that we're going to be asked to contribute. I guess at that point, we can say no, but
Correct.
once we join the consortium, it's expected that if there's going to be some action taken, that each municipality would contribute their fair share of what the cost of that action would be.
Do we add a cap to that before, because I mean, the way it reads is that they have a conversation and then they make a decision based on the majority in the consortium. I mean, shouldn't there be a cap or something where it comes back to the supervisors?
Well, we're not going to, the only thing we're approving is $250 a year.
So anything beyond that, just the way it reads, then I just wanted to clarify.
And I believe everything will come back to the municipalities, should something come up where we all need to get together. But some things will be isolated to specific municipalities, and they'll be expected to kind of carry that themselves. Others may come back and do that. It's just going to be the general legislation and trying to send some letters and things like that to legislators about Act 12.
So the 250 is the membership piece of it, and then, but there's still potential costs for other things. We don't really have a number for that.
We don't have that, we don't know that yet, because we don't know what they'll be doing, and there may not be
And
any.
there may be nothing, understood. That's why I was asking about,
Cato, Bucks County Association of Township Officials has funds set aside in their budget for lobbying. So I'm sure some of that would be used should lobbying be necessary. Those funds exist. That's why we pay dues every year and raise money through our various entities that support us. So I do believe that if there's going to be other or additional consultants, legal fees, and other experts, we will learn about them before and have the opportunity to opt in or opt out.
thank you.
Decision at
That's, you answered my question, thank you.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve our joining the consortium.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda. You're still up.
Yep. We have an opportunity to apply for a DCNR grant. This would be used for our courts. Need the board's authorization for me to sign the paperwork, submit the grant. We'll be asking for about a $250,000 project. It'll be 50%, so we'll look for about a $500,000 project, part of the courts. We know it's more than that, but we hope we can apply for the grant. I've talked to our consultant, mostly the max is 250 that we could probably see out of it. So we think it's worthwhile and would recommend applying for the funding.
So the most could see out of it is 250.
250
The
to
most we would
300
contribute would be
250. It's a matching grant, so yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve that.
I would
I'll second.
And mind you, what we're approving is Stephanie's.
Yeah.
Signature.
Acting as signature on that.
Yep.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, who's up next?
Stacy's actually going to handle the next one on Neighbors app.
All right. So I have to first give kudos to our police department because they're the one who brought this initiative to our attention. So the Neighbors app is a free app through the Ring. It's through Ring, but you don't have to have a Ring device to use it. And it's free not only for the user, but it is free for us to utilize. So both the township and the police department have our own accounts that we do use to report safety tips, different information about community events for the local government side. For the police side, they can request for assistance. So if there's if they notice there's some car thefts in a certain part of the township during a certain point, they can put that out there. They can ask for people who might have video, security video, or photos, or some information. So it's just another level of, assisting the police with investigations. And if people post things on there, they can also chime in and kind of get it's just another way of helping us keep our community safe. And so far, it's really worked out. We've been on there about, 2 weeks, I guess. And so we've done pretty well, a lot of interaction.
Sounds good. And how can we sign up for it?
It's, if you go to, on your phone, you can just download it. It's on the app of any.
The Apple app or whatever.
Yeah, you go to the store and it's a Neighbors app. And we do have information that's been going out on e-news, and we've also put it on social media. And it'll still be in this e-news this week, so if you're not signed up, you should sign up.
Thanks, Stacy.
Yep.
All right, next item on the agenda is supervisors, and I put myself down first because I wanted to speak to the capital campaign, which there is a capital campaign to raise money for the recreation center. The committee formally met for the first time via Zoom and in person on March 10th. The committee as we sit here, is myself, Dan Wood, Mary Lou Perry, and Joe Salvati, working with the township liaisons of Stephanie Mason, Stacy Crandall, Karen Sweeney, Ed Ebenbach, and Kirsten Bronkovic. Now, Kirsten is responsible for the drafts that you see in front of you. The committee, of course, had input in, the design and the verbiage and the giving opportunities and the names there. All these things might change. You just wanted to show you facsimiles of what these campaign documents will look like. Right now, like I said, they're pretty rudimentary. We need pretty paper and a good printer. There's going to be more materials that will be part of the campaign. I am very impressed with the person that has been serving as our admin for the capital campaign. She's doing a great job. She's very skilled, very creative. We're going to be kicking off in the community probably in May, using one of the recreation events to have a campaign committee kickoff, or a campaign kickoff for the recreation center. Oh, that's the other thing we decided. We decided to call it the Recreation Center, Recreation Community Center.
Community Recreation Center.
Thank you. Community, I stand corrected. There were so many changes to it. Community Recreation Center is what it's called, and it's the capital campaign for the Community Recreation Center. In addition to, of course, we're building this facility, this building, that'll has the gym and the multipurpose rooms and the kitchen and all the other bits and pieces, but we're also, as you heard, doing over the sports courts, and there also is going to be what's called the, not comfort station, what's it called?
Family cottage.
Family cottage, which will hold the bathrooms that will serve the facility, kids' castle, the amphitheater, and we'll also have a water station for all of us to use. It will be a nice little facility, which is another thing that we will be able to, quote unquote, sell to the public to raise funds. I think that facility alone is over probably around $600, if not a little bit more than $600,000, just for the Comfort Cottage. So I have also created an honorary committee. These are folks in our community who are willing to serve as honorary members of the Capital Campaign Committee. And I can't tell you how they are serving in what capacity, but I will tell you their names at this point. They are Karen Lasorda, Carol Shelley, James Brexler, Marvin Woodall, Jim Baldessari, Tom Macklin, and Michelle Peterson. It's not a complete list, but that's what I got so far, and it may or may not, it may expand, but for now, those folks are all committed. I can't tell you how they're going to be designated because they have different roles in the community. So I'm just trying to confirm with a couple how they would want to be listed and as an honorary committee member, as like CEO of so-and-so or whatever. So we're off to a good start. It's a very hardworking group of folks, and I think with the staff, excellent help, and this admin, we're going to be able to put together a pretty fluent and robust capital campaign. That's all I have. How about you, Dan? Anything?
Not much down on the capital campaign. I think you've covered everything there is to cover. Elsewhere, staying on the Parks and Rec theme, just letting folks know if you're looking for summer camp opportunities or things to do with your children, take a look at what our Parks Department offers. They're going to have a lot of their summer programs rolling out. Our Parks Department, Lisa and Karen, are doing a great job putting that together. My son and I are doing archery classes right now through them, so there's all kinds of opportunities. The last thing I just want to mention real quick, I don't want to be a downer about the Neighbors app or Ring. Residents should participate to what level they feel comfortable with. I just want to point out, though, that they're owned by Amazon, and Amazon and Ring have sketchy personal data policies. So it's up to you. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying to be aware that that data is collected and used for training different algorithm models and that kind of thing. I work in the tech industry. I'm aware of these things. So if that's a concern of yours, I'm just wanted to pass that along.
Hey, Brian?
Nothing for me.
Nancy?
I wanted to hear what Jen had to share with the Finance Committee, actually. So,
Did you have anything to share from the Finance Committee?
I wasn't prepared to share anything from the Finance Committee, and pretty much everything has been presented to the board on a timely manner. If I have other statements besides the Finance Committee.
no, go ahead. I'll wait till you're done.
I just wanted to say, last week there was an event that involved our police officers, and I received several phone calls from community members about the event itself and their interactions with our police department. And I have to say, it's not surprising, but we had a lot of compliments on how our officers handled the situation, and also with how our chief handled the situation. So I just wanted to add some kudos to the department for the work that they're doing.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Sure, just a couple questions or comments. One is, Barbara, I appreciate all the work you've done, and I know you are taking the lion's share of this on with this campaign, so I greatly appreciate your talents and your community reach. I just want to be clear, what is our campaign target number?
Yeah, well, as I said, as you've been told in emails, and as we talked about in board meetings, we already received $1.5 million. It would be nice if our campaign could match that. The campaign committee in fundraising. Campaign committee, however, doesn't want to be restricted by that. We're going to set it up so that if we get to 1.5 million, we're going to have a vehicle in place to extend to get more. So our goal is to get $1.5 million.
So 3 million total.
1.5 million Senator Santaseria already provided for us, and then keep it going with a mechanism that we're going to put in place, not yet determined. But it's that initial goal is 1.5 million without limitation.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. I was just trying to understand, the reason I ask is that we haven't put this out to bid yet, so
Well, what goes out to bid has nothing to do with the capital campaign. We're never going to make enough money in a capital campaign to pay for the facility. So what we get is going to be really wonderful. The community will participate and give their money. But we've already approved this facility, and I'm not counting on a whole lot of money to pay for it. Like I said, our goal is to, at first, match the 1.5 with another 1.5, and that's $3 million more than we had when we started the costs.
I understand.
So it goes out to bid regardless of what number is reserved for fundraising. If you want to get a number, just go back to the original 250,000, and now we also
In fact, this
have
project was approved with no fundraising.
250,000.
Yeah, 250,000 is what was our fundraising target towards the project.
Right. I'm looking more at holistically when we put this out to bid to see, I'm hopeful and optimistic this is all going to come to fruition, but after hearing, interest rates rising, I'm just concerned, and I just want to know, where we stand with that. That's it. It's just a comment. It's not an opinion, good, bad, and different. I'm not sure you understand it. The project's going out to bid regardless of whether we raise any money or not. Oh, I understand that. I'm looking forward to it going out. No, that was never my question.
Okay.
The other thing is something that I'm concerned about, Jen, I'm going to ask you specifically, is that when the minutes came back from the Finance Committee when they met, we had a $1.9 million surplus through a variety of things that came through. And I saw that in the minutes when they were sent. And I know some of that money is dedicated to ARPA, but, when we were talking about, whether or not we were going to have an additional tennis court or not, did you know that? Because, we had two supervisors saying, I'm not going to vote because it's going to be more money. And I just, why wasn't that information shared with the supervisors in advance?
I don't understand what you're saying.
So
I'm not
if we had such a surplus in our account that came through, what, is the chair of or the liaison of the Finance Committee, I think I'm looking for that transparency and information to come to us
I
sooner.
don't know that there's an issue of transparency, but Mr. Wallace, can you come and speak to?
I don't think
her
it's
question?
fully allocated, and it's really
I don't-
already allocated in some of our capital from left,
I mean, I know things weren't at capacity or
Yeah,
weren't
let
done.
Ken
I
kind of-
believe that was explained also earlier, so.
The $1.9 million that was brought up at the last Finance Committee, that's going to be explained at the next budget workshop in April. I can tell you right now that we had a very good year as far as our earned income tax was concerned. It exceeded our budget, it exceeded our forecast.
Ken, when do you get that information? When do you finally get the final number for?
Well, Ed and I are working on, as we speak, on a bridge analysis to show how we started out, with our forecast back in the fall and where we ended up with the surplus of $1.9 million. But like I can say to you that majority of that revenue is already spoken for, because as far as capital expenditures are concerned, things that were deferred to 2023. But like I said, we had a very good year as far as our earned income tax, our local services tax. The building permits came in higher than budget, and like I said, that will all will be bared out in our first budget workshop in April.
I understand. I guess
That's typically when we have these discussions, is when our finance department is able to wrap up what happened in the year before. It's one of our first budget meetings.
Correct. Yes, it's a 2022 preliminary wrap-up because
I just think if we have that much money in surplus and we're talking about approving tennis courts, we're making financial decisions that maybe we should have been informed sooner, right? In the corporate world, you'd be demoted if you didn't share that information sooner to your boss. So my concern is that maybe we need it in more real time rather than waiting to April, that I'd like to see that information sooner.
Well, we do have to take we have to take a look at as far as what happened as far as the end of the year And also, too, that Finance Committee, those numbers were preliminary, and they were unaudited. So, like I said, everything will bear out in the first budget workshop in April.
All right, I look forward to it.
Okay.
I'm just going to say for the record, like, the political game of gotcha is so exhausting, and it's ridiculous, because you stand here before the public acting like you have no information. You are at every meeting. You have more information than any of us do, because you badger all of the staff on a daily basis. So
Oh, I'd like to first stop when we talk about decorum, because I will not be attacked.
I'm not
and
attacking
called
you.
that
I'm
a
telling you
badger.
that you're-
As a matter of
you're-
fact, we
you're
had to call you
attacking-
out at the exec session for telling the chair of a park and rec not to respond to an email I sent.
because she said you were harassing her. So I said you don't have to
So I'd
respond.
like to just,
So I said you don't have to respond if you feel
You know what?
harassed.
as I
When you
talked to
send
the
7
solicitor,
emails to a,
Jeff, do you want to weigh in on this?
Jeff can weigh in all he wants.
Go for it.
Well, I think we should avoid the arguments at a public meeting. so-
Sure.
I agree.
Well, but you are playing games with this board. When you stand here and say things like, if you were in a corporate setting, you would be demoted, you say that to our chief financial officer, and you're talking to me about decorum, it's not okay. And you're playing games. You're playing games with the public, you're playing games with this board, acting like you don't have information, that there's things being held from you. It's not happening.
All right, we're going to move on now.
I'm sorry, Barbara. I just have 2 things I just want to say real quick. One, I would appreciate discussions in executive session, staying in executive session where they belong. We have that agreement. And 2, if we have a $1.9 million surplus, that would not have changed my vote about tennis courts. I still would not have added additional costs to this project. It would be great to have that money to spend down what we've already have to pay for the project. That's all I have to say.
All right, next item on the agenda.
Barbara,
Yes, ma'am.
before we move on, I mean, I was directly attacked with this, so I just wanted to say, I think it was very clear in the minutes what was going on in the Finance Committee. It does seem pretty obvious that it's an attack on me for some political reason, and
What is political about when you find out we have a $1.9 million surplus and
because there's a reason for it, and we talk about this maybe you don't understand the budget process, but this is how we
Oh, I
discuss
certainly
it.
understand the budget process, and you're the one who minimized the committee, who used to meet every month, now they only meet quarterly.
I don't minimize the committee.
You're the one who put the resolution forward to reduce the number of times the finance committee meets. You changed the
This was
name
a
of the
board
committee.
decision. Was it not? It was a board decision.
It was suggested by you to change it. You're the one who shared that,
All right,
so.
that's neither here nor there. We're going to move on. Public hearing is next on the Verizon cable franchise.
If I may, your board will recall that Doylestown Township participated with other municipalities in a consortium to negotiate a new franchise agreement for cable TV with Verizon. And the agreement you reviewed, I didn't participate in this preparation, although my review suggested it was the appropriate agreement, and it requires an ordinance to approve the agreement. So with the board's authorization, I prepared the appropriate ordinance. It was advertised in the Intelligencer, and it was sent to the Bucks County Law Library for their review as well, and it's ready for a public hearing.
Would you please conduct the public hearing?
Anyone care to make comment on the proposed franchise ordinance related to the Verizon Pennsylvania LLC? I see nothing, so I will close the public hearing.
Is there a motion to approve the ordinance of Doylestown Township authorizing the execution of the cable franchise agreement between the township and Verizon Pennsylvania LLC?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye, 5-0.
The next item is, the board will recall that I reported that Pennsylvania adopted Act 74 of 2022, which made modifications to the consumer use of fireworks. And you're required to adopt the appropriate ordinance, incorporating into your ordinance the requirements from Act 74. And those requirements that have been incorporated into this ordinance are as follows. That number 1, that the days when fireworks can be used have been expanded to be July 2, July 3, obviously July 4 was involved before, and the preceding and following weekends if July 4 falls on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of a given week. Memorial Day, again, the weekend before Labor Day and including the preceding weekend of Labor Day. In addition, they have added an exception with being fireworks for agricultural purposes, and when fireworks are permitted, they must be used between 10 p.m. and they can't be used between 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. except on July 3rd and 4th, July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, December 31, except they may not be used past 1 a.m. on those dates.
Everybody got that?
And also, if you violate the ordinance, there's a penalty involved up to $500. And lastly, you cannot use consumer fireworks within 150 feet of a building or vehicle. They are effectively the changes that I've made to the ordinance consistent with Act 74. Again, it was advertised in the Intelligencer. It was provided to the Bucks County Law Library, and it's time to conduct a public hearing. Does anyone have any comments?
Please take this podium, identify yourself, and make your comment.
Hi, Trish Murphy, Doylestown.
Please wait till you get to the microphone.
Trish Murphy, Doylestown Township. I was just wondering, that's a very, fireworks, every time they go off, we're in a Facebook group in the neighborhood, and it's mayhem. So whoever just, when, if, and how, whatever the rule is today, yesterday, or tomorrow, can you please, whoever runs the social media, desperately, especially if it's now till 1 a.m., on all those days, can we please make that public information? Because someone is always scrambling to see what the rules actually are. And it's a whole lot of unnecessary back and forth. I imagine that's gotta be can't just be in my neighborhood, it's gotta be in all of them. It's very unnecessarily dramatic. And for it to just, I don't want anyone to be surprised that they can do all these other days until now, till 1 in the morning.
Okay.
So, please, thank you.
Yeah. We'll make
We
that.
will.
make
We've
that-
posted it previously as well. Now we have to. post
We have
any
to do the
changes.
1 a.m., Jeff?
That's a state requirement.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Are there any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That concludes my report on the ordinances.
Okay, the 2023 road program presentation. Dave, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Looks pretty good to
Wait
me.
for presentation or give me control of the video here. Okay. Just going to start off, as I always do, and backtrack a little bit and just remind everybody what we did last year. I think it's worthwhile to know that we basically, as everybody knows, we started the 2022, the Accelerated Road Program. This generally is a map showing the township and the areas that we covered. Here's all the roads that are listed. Generally, here's all the areas in the neighborhoods that are hatched that we completed in 22, total of 10.3 miles. And what I really want to bring everybody's attention to is up here at the top where we look at our cost summary. Number one is the engineer's estimate being $2.8 million. The actual bid coming in at 2.4, our actual cost being 2.1. So the difference between the bid and the actuals being, in our bid, we do inflate quantities. So if we have some base repair to be done, we usually add in about a 10% into the material amounts. So if we find any problems, we're not coming back to the board asking for more money. Though we did have even the actual cost did include a change order, okay? So you could see what we planned for versus what we actually paid out. Netted us about almost $220,000 in savings for 2022. And we're gonna go through all the numbers. Mr. Wallace will come at the end and talk about our funding for this year. And I do have a cost summary at the end. So just bear with me as I go through the slides and we'll kind of talk through. So what do we want to do for this year? So basically working with Pannoni and Sean and Public Works staff, Mr. Gar, Mr. DeTurk, our road superintendent and foreman, we basically laid out a plan. This is what we're looking for, which we're calling the road program. Still calling it the Accelerated Road Program. We're going to do this, what we're calling Part 1. As we stand right now, we are going out to bid on Friday, okay? So we're ready to go. kind of worked out that we can come and present this to you, present it to the public, so everybody sees what's going on, and we're going out to bid. If you notice, you know, we're a little light, I would say, on this part because we don't want to overspend, okay? We know right now we're projecting about a $4 million spend this year on the road program. That's in the budget. It's been presented before, okay? So right now, these neighborhoods, and the reason why we're really going to these neighborhoods is because they're ready to go. When we put forth the road program, it was like we're ready to go, but we also got to remember our public works guys go in and we do drainage improvements, we do inlet tops, and we try to make repairs as needed. So saying we're going to go out and pave 30 miles of roads in 2 years, that's great on the contract side and the bid side, but it's a lot of work on the back end for our guys. So we talked again with the Public Works Road Department, and we laid out these neighborhoods. So it includes the ridings up here at the southwest corner, and also Doylestown Knoll, also this little piece here, Deerfield Lane, and also Quail. Okay, so that's what we're going with. And again, I will show you the cost summary at the end. This is looking to be about 4.3 miles. A little bit lighter than obviously we did last year, but combined, we're going to do significantly amount more, about 5 miles more. This is what we're looking at as part 2. So as soon as part 1 gets wrapped up, we close out the project, we know how much money we have left to spend, we will then take this forward and put this out to bid. It's a little more spread out, a couple other areas, basically again, roads we highlighted, they're all listed here. And as you can see, we're almost hitting 12 miles in part 2. So really part 1 and part 2, you know, we're moving ahead to 16 miles here, okay? So this is our part 2 areas. Again, part 1 last year and part 2 of this year, we try to stay within neighborhoods, obviously, before mobilization costs and efforts. This will spread us out, because as we get done some of the neighborhoods, we're going to start hitting the little roads and move out.
It looks like this is a lot of cul-de-sacs, too.
It is,
Yeah.
as well, yeah, right. And some of the smaller neighborhoods that need it, that we're getting to. And remember, 22 into this part were neighborhoods that folks came to us and said, we've been here for a long time, we haven't seen any paving. So we really tried to move forward in those areas to address their concerns. But these are also neighborhoods that we heard from as well.
Yeah.
Areas we heard from, okay? So again, almost 12 miles here. This is our part 2 alternates. So as you can see, what we have is obviously the upper corner here, which is mainly the thoroughfare of Rogers Road, Turkey, and those roads. That's one neighborhood that we have targeted. My concern with that is that we know that we have the potential, the sewer and the water line coming through with the Grasso tract. And whatever that's called at this point, I'm not really sure, but as we all know, we're waiting. So we don't want to get in a situation where we pave a road and then it's going to get tore up. So it's on the plan and it's moved forward on the plan, but it's not front and center. It's an alternate. We have it in our back pocket. There is a section which you really can't see. It's a little highlighted in here is the hill on Turkey Lane. That's really poor shape. We might actually do that as a section there as base repair. You can also see there's roads here, Rickards, Lime Kiln Road, Pine Run Road coming off of Ferry Road, we know is really in need of attention. Also here, Sandy Ridge Road at Old Dublin Pike, there's some areas there that need to be done. Those would be base repairs. What we want to do is we want to have a base bid with a la carte alternates that can hit our target of the spend of the $4 million this year. Okay?
Can I ask you a quick question with these alternates? Do these alternates become priority in 2024 if they don't get hit as alternates in 2023?
Yes, that would be our plan, is
Okay.
is to continue, not let them fall off, but continue.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to speak to the area down here, the Wilkshire Track, also Willowbrook Drive, Squirrel Lane, and also Pebble Hill Road. Right now, the DTMA is surveying residents there to see if there's a want for water. I talked to Mr. Haas, and so they're doing that. So while it's kind of an alternate for the plan, we're kind of still wait and see as to how we're going to move forward there. And again, if not, then we're going to move it forward next, if not, can't do it this year, next year, and make these priorities and move, again, everything up. Okay, so any questions on, any other questions on, kind of before I get to the cost summary?
One question, circling back to the beginning, about the money we saved from last year, and I forget, I know we would have approved it, but was that with additional alternates added to 2022 as well?
That's where I'm going to ask you to jump in here, if I remember if we did have some alternatives.
As long as it's not me who doesn't.
Always. What we do is we do a base bid of a number that we know we need to achieve. We also include alternates, so if the prices come in good enough, we can then award the alternates and still maintain that pricing. So we will always put together, since we're doing a part one and a part two, part one will not have alternates, part one will be a base contract, part two will always have alternates, and then we can trigger which alternates we want to pick.
Right.
In case one makes more sense than others.
So just to recall, in 2022, we saved money and we did additional alternate roads as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I'm going to move to the cost summary slide here? So again, just real brief, here you see part one at 4.3 miles, estimated 1.3 million, part two, 12.25. Basically, this year, we're looking at right at coming just below with those roads with at the engineer's estimate of 3.9, and then you can see the alternates coming at 6 miles. Now, we know we're not going to do 6 miles because we're not going to spend another 1.8, but we can infill and kind of create a situation where we know we're going to kind of be in target. So we want to know what our spend is for part one before we move to part two, but create a contract that will allow us to get to a target. And if we realize savings, we'll like to roll that over into '24. So that's the plan. I know it's a lot of information. There's, what we want to do is if the board is kind of likes this idea, then we'll put this up on, this is what we'll then push out to the website and the public and say, this is where we're going this year, this is the plan. With the caveat of there's some changes, but also continue to move it into '24.
I think this is great. I would just make sure that you kind of signify that. Like, if I saw my road as an alternate, I would be like, well, what does that mean, right? So just kind of give a footnote on that when we put it out to the public, what that means,
I'll work with Stacy on the website and to say these are the ones that are definites that are going out to bid now. Okay, so when they show up, no one's, and they'll push out information in the weekly update as to when that's going to occur.
Yep.
And our plan is, we're hoping to, June, if not, end of May, June, to get rolling here and get done so we can continue the next part.
Dave, do you need an authorization from the board to advertise part one?
If the board would like to give me an authorization,
I'll
that'd
make
be
the-
great. We don't typically ask for authorization. I mean, typically we present the program, but if you want to, sure, that would be.
We'll entertain a motion to put out to bid part one of the 2023.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Clear direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll-
One more slide, and this is really for Mr. Wallace, and I'm going to be his pointer, so allow me to just talk about the financing piece
We don't have that slide.
of our program.
Hand it out.
That was in a separate distribution.
Thank you.
Mr. Wallace solicited a variety of banks to provide bids, for lack of a better word, on borrowing the funds to do the complete road project that's been outlined. What he's handing you out is the results of the discussion or the proposals received from 6 different banks, 5 different banks. UNB had 2 options.
Oh, good.
I don't want to speak for him, but I believe he's recommending the TD Bank proposal being the most advantageous for the financing purposes. And I think you need to, if that's your direction, TD Bank proposal and authorize me to prepare the required ordinance in order to proceed with the loan.
Yes, this memo is looking for 2 things, is the approval by the board to keep the accelerated road program moving forward, and to approve the funding as far as the loan is concerned. Because as you recall, in 2022, the accelerated road program was phase 1, in which we used roads and bridges tax millage revenue, we used state liquid fuels, and we used reserves from the general fund. For The process for the 2023 budget, it was approved by the board to use, again, tax millage for the road program along with state liquid fuels, and for 2023, we would borrow $3 million. So that was the game plan coming into 2023. So as we transitioned, as the budget was approved and for 2023, we transitioned into the new year. It became apparent to the finance department that the community center and the road program, which initially was going to be one borrowing, and has turned into a situation where the community center and the road program, because of timing, are becoming two separate projects. So we decided that we would solicit local banks for funding to find out if there was any appetite for this loan. And we received back, positive responses and 5 proposals. So, we looked over the proposals. We consulted with the solicitor, and we, got some feedback from Mr. Garden as far as the conditions and terms and things like that were concerned. And, we decided and we landed on TD Bank as the bank that we would, get the loan from. So, Dave, do you have, okay. So let me walk you through the 5 proposals.
Actually, probably only have to walk through the one you're recommending.
Okay.
You gave them all to us.
Yes. So as you can see, TD Bank had the lowest rate. It's the 4.2% is a good rate. It's a level term rate it's a fixed rate for the entire 15 years. The amounts, the average monthly payment is $22,492.51, which is going to be level for the entire 15 years. And we have some bank fees there at $2,500. So the rate, like I said, all these rates came in are good rates from the banks, because currently right now the Fed fund rates is between 4.5% to 4.65%, and that the Fed fund rates are usually what the bank charges other banks for overnight borrowing. So as you can see, we got some attractive rates here, and we got a positive response from the 5 banks because we have strong financial statements. Don't forget, we're a AA1 rated municipality. We have good reserves, so there wasn't a problem getting solicitations from these banks. So like it says here, the funding for the 2023 Accelerated Road Program will be through this loan, road tax, and state liquid fuels. And what I'm asking for the board tonight is your approval to move my recommendation forward so I can work with the solicitor on getting the proper documentation to DCED, and we can have closing documents, because our closing target date is June 15th of 2023. So
Actually, it's twofold. Number one is to award it to TD if you're so inclined, but also to authorize preparation of an ordinance. When you incur debt like this, you need to adopt an ordinance, and that'll be ready for the next meeting if you're so inclined.
Do we need 2 separate?
You can do it all in one motion.
Okay.
Ken, an additional question for you. Splitting this out from the community center project for loan payments, do you see that changing the long-term estimate for the payback period for both projects in our budgets?
well, no, because basically the community center will be a bond, okay, which will be a 25-year term. This is going to be a 15-year term bank note from, so basically we're going to have, we have it set up within the budget as far as the debt service payments are concerned.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve that TD Bank borrowing at 4.20% for 15 years, $3 million, with a,
Preparation and advertising of the ordinance.
and preparation and advertising of the ordinance.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. Good road program, people.
Thank you.
Okay, Peter's property. Okay, we have some, Peters want to do a driveway? Is that what they want to do?
They want to do what we call Captain's Driveway, which is a circular driveway, and it requires board authorization.
What do you recommend? I mean, it's not a
There-
zoning issue?
No, it is not a zoning issue. It's in the ordinance and requires only that the board can authorize someone to have what I'll call a circular driveway.
And we've
They are
approved
not
these.
Yeah.
over the impervious surface either.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
First and second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is the natural gas supplier procurement project. Ms. Crandall?
Yes. As you may remember, a couple months ago, we procured our electricity, which will actually be starting in April with 100% renewable energy at a really good rate. So we wanted to do the same thing with the natural gas as well. So I did receive numbers today. We're recommending a 36-month versus a 48-month because of the natural gas and the way the market is. We don't want to do a 12 or 24-month just with how the market is a little crazy right now. So we think the next 2 years it's going to probably steadily go up. So we're recommending 36 months so we're not locked in totally. And the numbers were really good. They are actually lower than the proposal we received last week. It was like 518 instead of 536. We can't sign on this until tomorrow, so my recommendation to the board is to allow the township manager and myself the ability to sign off on the contract as long as it's at a rate or below 550.
So over the 36 months, are you saying it can increase to 550?
No.
We're going to lock it in, right?
We're gonna lock it in. I don't think
Today
it's going.
3.18, right? Or 5.18?
It's 5.18 today. Tomorrow, I don't think it'll be significantly higher. It has been trending downwards, so maybe we'll get even luckier tomorrow. It's a daily number.
Okay.
So we have to lock it in, but it's easier if you guys can just give us approval, and then we can determine if it should go up significantly tomorrow, we can hold off and wait it out. So, and that way we can do it. We don't have to wait for a board meeting to get approval.
Okay, makes sense. Any questions, thoughts on this? All right, so we'll look for a motion to approve this procurement project for 36 months and authorization to Stephanie Mason and/or Stacy Crandall to sign the documents so long as the number stays under 5.50 tomorrow.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, turning the page. Next item on the agenda is the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority Park Improvement. Well, this has to do with EDUs and needing 17 of them for our recreation center
And for the bathrooms.
and the bathrooms. 6 of them, right? 6 stalls of them?
6 plus the 9 associated with the building and the outside. So we have bathrooms inside and outside, as well as the additional 6 that are down at the proposed
So
bathroom.
we have to execute this agreement with Bucks
Yes.
County Water and Sewer Authority. Everyone's had an opportunity to review it. Any questions? The motion to approve this agreement.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Pretty straightforward. Zoning Hearing Board application for 46 Pine View Drive. What's your recommendation?
I would recommend that we leave this to the zoning hearing board. It's a special exception for an in-law suite.
Okay, fine. All right, next one is the property located, lots 14 and 15. Just seemed like a little more active, a little more robust kind of application.
But I think it's simple, really, at the end of the day, it's going to be some variances regarding some woodlands and steep slopes and impervious surface, which I believe our zoning hearing board is quite capable of addressing.
Okay. Okay, next is 33 Neil Drive. What do you think?
This is a special exception for a warehouse. It's allowed in the C4 district as a special exception. I see no reason not to leave it to the zoning hearing board at this time.
He wants a G15 warehouse and a C4 office medical.
It is a special exception, so it's a use by right with conditions.
Gotcha. All right, it's going to the zoning hearing board, and then finally, the 380 North Shady Retreat Road.
This is an amended zoning application for the veterinary clinic that's on Shady Retreat Road. So I would leave this to the zoning hearing board as well.
Okay, so be it. All right, next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report for March 21st, 2023. Sent to you electronically. Is there a motion to approve it?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And the bills list for March 21st, 2023.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're next meeting on Tuesday, April 18th at 7. We're going to be, the Finance Committee is going to hold their first budget work session with the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, April 18th at 5 p.m. The administrative offices will be closed on Friday, April 7th for Good Friday. Township news updates can be in your inboxes every Friday at 4. Sign up at doylestownpa.org. Drug Take-Back event, April 22nd at Doylestown Hospital and Weiss's Markets from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Upcoming events in the community, yard sale, Central Park on April 24th, Touch a Truck in Central Park on May 13th, the annual golf outing, Doylestown Country Club on August 21st, all proceeds to benefit the Recreation Center. The 2023 Thompson Performing Arts Series at C&M Bank Amphitheater from June to August. You can see the concerts listed going to doylestownrec.org. National Night Out, very important for our community, August 1st, 2023, from 4 to 8 in Central Park. And then you can get your potholes fixed by calling the appropriate person to fix the roads, either State Road at 1-800-FIX-ROAD or Township Roads at 348-9915. And if you need to know what the road is, Doylestown Township or State, go to our website, doylestownpa.org. There's a complete list. And then leaf and yard recycling, third Saturday of each month between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and the first and fourth Tuesday of the month between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. The drop-off for your yard waste recycling is at the New Britain entrance to Central Park. Okay, and finally, public comment on any item. Or is there any public comment? Sir, please take the podium to identify yourself.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Michael Walsh. For 33 Neil Drive, what dimension warehouse? I understand it is within C4, item G15, but what are they trying to do? Is a warehouse like a 3-story extra space storage?
No, it's a warehouse building that
Can you have
is
this?
30.
Would you like a copy of the application?
Oh, yeah, I'll take it if you
Yeah,
have
we
it.
can
That way
give you
it has
that. It's also on
everything
the
you need.
website.
And go to the zoning hearing board meeting. Please.
There is currently a vacant warehouse next door that shares the same property line to that building.
I think
Actually, that's the where Aldefers. I don't believe it's vacant, but Aldefers.
Well, they're trying to sell it right now, but before the hospital used
The
as a
hospital
temporary
used it,
site,
used to be Myers.
before that, it was vacant for about 3 years after Eagles Peak.
Eagles
up
Peak
and
had
left.
it, right, and now it's Aldefers has it for the
Auction.
furniture auction items, things like that, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's permitted use.
No, I understand
yeah.
that, but is there a reason why they, like, it can't be developed? I know he came back before to try to go R4 and the density is too much for there, but
The residents from the neighborhood were out at our planning commission, very much opposed to any residential development along.
I was at the last one, yes, I understand, and we opposed R4, which is 8 homes per acre. And we
Correct.
asked why they would not consider using R1 or R2.
Well, we can't force.
Understand that, but
Yeah.
if it can be recommendation to the individual, because obviously he does not have that property under his personal business. It is under a shell corporation essentially. Because he doesn't want to know what he's going to develop it into. It's like a cat and mouse game trying to track it.
I would go to the zoning and hearing board.
Yeah.
It
okay,
could
well.
be-
That's
Has
where
the
you'll be able to,
absolute right
yeah.
to go through the process.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you for the copy of the
Yeah.
application.
You're welcome. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and there are documents to be signed.
Thank you.
This is little twos. Actually, I'm hot in threes.